Some Germans sneered at the token British force for getting the Japanese to do their dirty work.
The brave British. They played no part in the capture of Tsingtao, but they joined in the victory parade. As they went by, we Germans were ordered to turn our backs on them. The English complained to the Japanese commander, but he simply said, "Well, we can't repeat the whole procession just because of that."
The capture of Tsingtao gave Japan a launch pad to pursue her empire building. Within weeks, she demanded territory and trading rights from China. Japan also seized all German possessions north of the equator. Australia and New Zealand were quick to steal those to the south. Much to America's frustration, Britain had empowered Japan in the Pacific. Key stage in a process that would lead, a quarter of a century later, to Pearl Harbor. Germany's loss of Tsingtao, far from neutralizing Spey's squadron, ensured its destructive power would be felt around the globe. The best German cruiser commanders, like Spey, were fearless mavericks whom the war turned into heroes. Superb sailors with the instincts of pirates. The Kaiser had given them full authority to make their own decisions in wartime.
The heavy responsibility of the officer in command will be increased by the isolated position of his ship. But he must never show one moment of weakness. Above all, the officer must bear in mind that his chief duty is to damage the enemy as severely as possible.
Spey now split his squadron. The light cruiser Emden, under Captain Karl von Müller, made for the Bay of Bengal. Spey in the Scharnhorst led his other ships across the Pacific.
I'm quite homeless. I cannot reach Germany. I must plough the seas of the world, doing as much mischief as I can.
At the Admiralty in London, Winston Churchill fretted about where Spey would show up next.
The vastness of the Pacific and its multitude of islands offered him their shelter. And once he had vanished, who should say where he would reappear? He was a cut flower in a vase, fair to see yet bound to die. But so long as he lived, all our enterprises lay under the shadow of a serious potential danger.
Spey had a constant worry. Cruisers needed coal every 8 or 9 days or they'd be dead in the water. He made for neutral Chile, where he had coal waiting for him. On the 1st of November 1914, he ran into a British fleet off Coronel. The battle which followed inspired a post-war feature film. The British commander was Admiral Sir Christopher Cradock, under orders from London.
It appears that Gneisenau and Scharnhorst are working across to South America. Be prepared to meet them in company.
Cradock had one ship that could outgun Spey's fleet, but she was slow and had been left behind. Now Cradock raced towards enemy ships better armed than his. He had ignored his own rule of thumb.
A naval officer should never let his boat go faster than his brain.
I immediately ordered Scharnhorst and Gneisenau to go full steam ahead, and within 15 minutes I was racing against heavy seas at 20 knots and came to lie parallel with him.
Cradock's ships were no match for Spey's.
Good Hope and Monmouth were obviously in distress. Monmouth yawed off to starboard, burning furiously. There was a terrible explosion on Good Hope between her mainmast and her after funnel. The gust of flames reached a height of over 200 feet. lighting up a cloud of debris that was flung still higher in the air.
"1,600 British sailors were lost. It was Britain's worst naval defeat for 250 years. The global war was going Germany's way.
It is only when you get to see and realize what India is, that she is the strength and the greatness of England. It is only then that you feel that every nerve a man may strain, every energy he may put forward, cannot be devoted to a nobler purpose than keeping tight the cords that hold India to ourselves.
Britain's empire and trading network was the single biggest resource she brought to the war. And India was at the heart of it. The cords were never tighter. All the more reason for Germany to want them cut. These slender lines on the map were now the focus of intense study in the British and German admiralties, in the chart rooms of warships. Fingers traced the vital shipping lanes, through the Suez Canal, around South Africa's Cape. Minds pondered how to protect them, how to sever them. And one of the sharpest minds was on the bridge of the German cruiser Emden. A month after she left Admiral Spee's squadron, Captain Karl von Müller steered her into the Bay of Bengal. In 1932, the Germans made a feature film about his odyssey.
He had an indescribable power over the entire crew. He never gave orders, he just expressed a wish. From the moment he took command of the ship, he never left the bridge again. This is where he stood, slept, sat, studied the maps. This is where he wanted to be, stand or fall.
The Emden sometimes rigged a dummy funnel to look like a British cruiser.
A large steamer appeared dead ahead, and thinking we were an English man of war, was so overjoyed at our presence that she hoisted a huge British flag. I'd like to have seen the look on her captain's face when we hoisted our flag, and invited him most graciously to tarry with us a while.
Captain Müller became famous for taking all crew and passengers safely onto the Emden before sinking their ship.
We always allowed them time to collect and take with them their personal possessions. They usually devoted most of this time to making certain that their precious supply of whiskey was not wasted on the fishes.
Müller regularly released his grateful captives. Such was the Emden's impact that the British Admiralty later drew up this chart to track her movements. Müller even had the audacity to steam into the Indian port of Madras, as a crew member recorded in his diary.
22nd of September 1914, 9:30 p.m. The Emden sneaks closer and fires 125 shots. Some hit boats in the harbour. Huge columns of fire rise above the oil tanks. The coastal defences open fire, but they all fall short. 23rd of September. We are now 100 miles away. We can still see the fires at Madras.
In the city of London, freight rates and shipping insurance rocketed. At one point, the entire British trade fleet in the Bay of Bengal was kept in harbour rather than fall prey to dashing Captain Müller.